Now we have audio. Good. Already messed it up. All right, thanks everybody for joining for to do a special live stream version of How to Make Everything. And it's going to be a bit retro because I'm back here alone at my apartment doing this all alone, where I haven't really been for about 2 years since we got a studio space. So just to update everybody else on what's been going on here locally. Oh, now we have audio. There's myself. Where we are in Minnesota, and compared to the rest of the country, especially the coastal regions have been harder hit. We're about roughly a week behind in the whole global pandemic, I believe. So we had about a week warning that the state is likely to shut down everything and have a stay-at-home, shelter-in-place order. This past week has been a bit of a hustle to try and wrap up as many projects, then pack things up and set us up to keep producing from our homes, just so we can keep going, keep money coming in, keep people employed, and keep entertaining everybody. So that has been a very crazy week. And as of midnight last night, we now have a official shelter-in-place order from the governor of Minnesota, and so that's where we're at. I loaded everything into my apartment last night, and I have no room to really move or breathe, but I got everything set up. So in the last video, a lot of people were asking about toilet paper, which has become a hot commodity as of late. That's what we're going to do today. Let me make sure everything's... Well, thanks for all the comments. Get through all of them. All right, no complaints about the audio, so I assume it's good. So in our main series, we are just wrapping up the production of papyrus, historically invented in Egypt. I think it was around, what are we at, 3000 BCE around, roughly. So we are working on trying to make this stuff, and that'll be our next video. It's kind of the first version of paper, and where we get the term paper comes from the term papyrus. But they didn't really use this as toilet paper because it was a bit of a process to actually make, and probably not the best material. So we're actually going to try and replicate some of the methods we explored years ago. It's actually one of our most popular videos on paper making for making fiber-based papers, which is a technology that came a fair bit later in history, first in China, and then eventually spreading around the world. And then shortly after it started to be used for toilet paper here and there, but it really didn't pick up until like 1800s, I believe. So this is our end goal with the shortages everywhere. I just went to the grocery store yesterday and still completely sold out toilet paper for no real reason. So weird that that's become the hot commodity of our time. So I'm gonna do a little exploration of trying a few different methods. I haven't done this in years, so this is most likely going to fail, but we'll give it a shot anyways. So I have some various organic matters we collected. We have some leaves, some grass, branches, flowers, some lavender, and so we're going to try one batch of paper out of that. Then I have some just leftover junk mail, newspapers and stuff. I'm going to grind that up and try making paper out of that. It does raise a question that why don't you just use this, which you can. But we're going to try that out. And I also have some of the leftover fiber back when we did this about 2015, so almost 5 years ago. It's cotton fiber right here. This is just left over. And when I do these projects, I just like to hoard everything because it always comes up as needing it later. So it's just like hunks of cotton. Stuff has already been kind of processed and beaten. They had these, we did this at Cave Paper. They did these big troughs that I would just run all of the cotton through. Somebody should post a link to our paper making video so you can check that out and know what the heck I'm talking about. So it's just cotton fiber that's been broken up a little bit. Of course, it's dried up. I've been trying to soak everything. It's still not breaking up. So the first step for all of these is to soak them overnight, which I did. So I have some containers of that. I soaked them and then cooked them in an alkaline solution using washing soda. And so let's say it's at right now. I have some of those already prepped. So I'm going to use a blender to grind them up. And then we're going to use this little guy. It's just a screen, a little frame, and then we'll Have some tubs of water. I'm gonna pull it through. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Now this is for real. No, my only roll. All right, stakes just going higher. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna grind them up, put them in a vat of water, the particles to float on the surface. I'm gonna run the screen through, get it to collect here, and put it onto one of these cloth, pack it down. Then ideally you want to put a weight on it and let it dry overnight. I'm just gonna kind of roll them out and put a fan on it, and then we'll take some question and answer, do a little segment on that, and then we'll check them out and see if we have any working solution for this. And we also have the aloe plant, which one of the most satisfying things to cut up. It's just the leaves, just cut them open, and it's got the gel inside. So a lot of higher brand toilet papers, a lot of higher brand toilet papers, add a little bit of aloe to it to make it a little bit softer when you use it. So we'll give that a shot, see what that does, see if that makes it any better or not. Yeah, just gonna skim the comments quick. See any comments I should be looking to. Yeah, we can get going. Oh, I still have bits of my past project in here. What was it? When I tried to make it out of just ground up paper pulp, which did not work. As we're doing the reset, working our way chronologically through history, hopefully going to make it up to paper very soon. It's still a little ways away. I think it was around like 50 AD or so. It was first invented, and then it was actually quite a bit later that I actually started making it out of actual wood. So we'll be a little bit further along, but it'll be interesting to actually explore it and then revisit some of the projects we've done before without success, and hopefully figure it out a little bit better. All right, let's get the blender. Okay. So this is the solution of all the leaves and flowers and other things. Actually smells really good. The flowers are very fragrant. So I'm just going to pick out all of the sticks and hard stuff. Load up the blender. Huge mess. Alright, let's get that ground up. Tub. Okay, let's see if this will work. That in there. Okay. It's not really floating. That might be an issue. Some bigger strands in here. I might need to grind it a little bit more. I'll add some more. Smells really good. Alright, that might still be a little thick than what you want. I'm not entirely sure what consistency you want. I don't know. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. Let's add some aloe first. Got the leaves right here. If I had a camera operator, we'd get a nice close-up of this, but I don't have one. Keep the husk of it. It's a little small to cut up. Throw that in and grab some bigger fiber pieces. A little bit of aloe. Alright, you got a nice murky brown solution. Let's see what we can get out of it. Remember how to do this right. Drain off. Oh, there's what's left of the wood pulp paper I tried to make. That is not a viable solution. Oof, making a mess. Okay, we have something. It's a square. Let's see how it does. This on top. This board. And flip it over. And then, ooh, it's stuck. Go. Okay. Maybe. Pretty doubtful. But let's press it together a little bit with a roller. Another. Nice. A little bit of moisture out. So we'll set that aside and put a fan on it. See if anything happens. So move on to the next one. Okay, hopefully that fan's not too loud, and we can move on to the next one. Hopefully get a little bit better results. So that one looks very questionable. Still in there. So next up we'll do the recycled paper. So I've been boil it up in a solution of alkaline solution. Boiled paper. It helps remove some of the ink from it too. So just gonna add that to the spool. Mix it in. So I'd say this in a real-world solution. If you found like wet, damp, ripped up newspaper, you could salvage it in a situation where it wouldn't normally be usable to make it usable. So otherwise, you could just use the actual newspaper itself in emergency situations. Let's see, where did I put everything? Missing piece of it. Still in the stove. Okay. Let's see if I can get this one to work a little bit better. might be an issue. Oh, yeah, that worked. Okay, so that looks pretty promising. And it's pretty cool because some of the paper kept the ink, so you got little words in there, so it's something to read while you're in the bathroom before you use it. I'd say that's pretty promising. Just gotta let it dry out. Try pressing a little bit. Wish I need to steal that felt from this one. Wait, there's one right here that fell. Perfect. Maybe we should take that off. Maybe this way. Alright. It's got some holes. Ideally rolling it, not the greatest. If you put it under some weight, it would have worked a little better, I think. But I want this for the next one. Another rule here. Alright. On to the last one, which is the cotton. Let's see, gotta shuffle some stuff around. Okay, so technically this stuff is already broken up, but I still held together. It's like dried out over the course of, what did I say, 5 years. So I think I'll throw it in the blender. Technically that'll make it worse. Blender isn't the ideal tool for making paper. Usually they use the wrong troughs. I believe a hammer is sometimes used in traditional paper making. So that helps preserve longer fibers, I believe, is the process. So, blend this up. Hopefully get something workable. And try a third option here. It's still hot. Whew. For the grinds, I'll take a look at the comments. Oh, there's so many. Alright. Sweet AMSR for you guys. Looks decent. Let's give that a shot. Ooh. Might break the blender in the process. Oh yeah, that looks really nice. Nice and pulpy. That's very promising. This is gonna make some really quality toilet paper. That's what we're making. We're making toilet paper. Ugh. Let's add some more aloe. That would help. Let's make this premium. Smoking. Alright. Aloe. tentacle. Nice center. I don't remember where my cutting board went. No. So you definitely don't want the side parts because they have thorns, which isn't ideal for toilet paper, I would imagine. Oops. Just throw the whole leaf in, why not? I didn't want that part anyways. I'm just going for the blender. There's any fibers. Yeah, there's a few big ones in here. They should be ground a little bit more. So if you want to get this cotton and to actually do it yourself, I have a video where I grew my own cotton, which you can do even as far north as Minnesota. You just have to start it indoors with a lot of hydroponic kits and lights, and then transfer it outside, then bring it back inside before it begins to frost, or just do an early harvest. Your yield might be pretty low. It's a very long-term solution for making toilet paper. The short term might just be getting a leaf outside. I think that's all the chunks. The aloe. Some water. And smoothie time. Let me get this guy out of here. Did my blender break? I think I broke my blender. Yep. I planned for this. This isn't the first time I've broken a blender. Or three. Okay, so this one won't. We're going to have clumps of aloe in it. Very select areas will be nice and soothing. Alright. I think I did an okay job. Alright, let's get our screen ready. This out of the way. wait. Let's give it a nice smell too. And that lavender go. Never mind, I lost it. Okay. Let's see. What do we do for cotton here? Evenly distribute it. That works. That right there. And on the surface. Right there. Flip it over. Ooh, that's nice. That is gonna be really nice. And just a little bit. Mess it up. And that probably just made it worse. Okay. Alright, I'm going to set these to dry, and then we can answer a few questions anybody has, so feel free to throw them in the comment section, and then we'll collect a few and answer them. Back. Okay, I'll answer questions. I have my apocalypse survival beverages. These are from last episode we did on making beer. This is the actually test batches to make sure the yeast was actually viable and wasn't going to kill me or anything. So we got some of it with wild yeast. This is yeast captured in a back alley. Offers a very distinct taste. And then we have just a control, which is a store-bought yeast. And then I think, nope, there used to be one that was a mixture of both of them. Those are all gone. So I'm going to see whatever comment I see first that has a suggestion of which one, wild yeast or the control. I'll drink that and tell you how it is. Where'd my glass go? Alright, let's just drink it from the bottle then. People are going for wild. I see wild. I don't know if it was the first one. I'm going to go with it because it's actually my favorite. The wild yeast has a very distinct tart flavor. I'm going to grab a glass so you can see it. Here it is. Ugh. It's a lot darker than I remember. I don't know if I should be concerned. I don't think I've tasted these since I bottled them so they would carbonate. Let's go ahead. Let that settle. Let's see. All right. So we had a question of what's a favorite project. My go-to answer is always chocolate. That one was by far the most interesting and satisfying one to do. We spent a little bit of money on that and went to Mexico to collect actual cacao from the tree, and then processed it, which is the whole thing I didn't know anything about before we started it. So it was really interesting to learn the process, do it myself, and then produce something that was very unique and tasted good. It was very rustic, I believe is the word that was used, because it was fire roasted over open fire in Mexico. And what was interesting about that project is we did a TV pilot a couple years later, and we were able to go back down there because they also wanted to do chocolate as a part of it, and got to revisit the same people and reconnect with them. It was very limited reconnection because 2 years later I still didn't speak Spanish, even though like after that trip I was like, I'm going to learn Spanish, and then I didn't. So still, through a translator, got to reconnect with them. Yeah, nothing came of the TV pilot though, but got a free trip to Mexico out of it. That's pretty good. Very tart, a bit sour. Let's see, I got a question to pronounce bidet. I don't know if that's right. A very distinct Minnesota accent that causes things to be said differently. I won't say they're incorrect, I just say they're different. Favorite drink? It's pretty good. I'm always a sucker for chocolate milk. Beer or chocolate milk, about the same. How many blenders have I gone through? Let's see, that's another one. Let's see. I think we broke one, we were making soap. Is that it? I've been in this same spot and I broke. Whoa, this guy's going crazy. Recently broke the hand mixer, and then wow, that thing's going crazy. This thing's very carbonated. Let's see, I feel like it might be going a little too loud. Am I peaking? Just that. Let's see. Where's my blenders? I would guess at least 4, maybe 5. Yeah, we've ground a lot of weird stuff. Let's see. What projects won't we do? I don't know if there's anything I necessarily rule out. There's different things that make it a challenge. We've been wanting to do weapons. We did the reset, which holds us back a little bit further, but eventually do want to get to gunpowder and making actual like cannons and handguns, which I know is going to be very difficult with the YouTube platform and their restrictions. Beyond that, kind of everything is on the table. It's mostly a question of budget and feasibility. Really, the idea with the reset is to be building on top of itself so that things that seem out of the realm of possibility become more and more in the realm as we build more tools, to build more tools, to more tools, and become more advanced. Yeah. Let's see. Why did you start YouTube? YouTube was actually kind of not the first choice. This all started with the sandwich I made. Actually made that in 2012, and was just a documentary project I wanted to do because I wanted to make content people actually wanted to watch. I went to school for video production, post-production, and found myself mostly in the advertisement world, producing content that people fast forward through. So I wanted to produce content people actually wanted to watch. So I just started a documentary just as something. It was a random idea I had, and I was hoping it would start me in the direction, and it's kind of a slow evolution that eventually led to YouTube after the video went viral. So that's how that happened. Are we making a katana? Maybe? I don't know. Iron Age is still coming up, and then definitely want to make various swords in that era too. We just did some Bronze Age swords, the first invention of swords, with Gregg, the swordcaster, and eventually hoping to get to the Iron Age by the end of the year, and then we can start doing more iron weapons, such as a katana, which I believe has some advantages because the methods used involved lower pure iron, I believe, because Japan had very limited iron sources, so they had to do a lot of processing to make it really high quality. I might be wrong about that, though. What did I do before YouTube? Well, I just mentioned I did advertisement, and I still, on occasion, do it on the side. It's work. I definitely prefer producing content that is enjoyable and not an advertisement, not trying to sell you something, even though we end up having to put ads to support ourselves and everything. And how many kilns have we gone through? Boy. Man. We might be up to a dozen at this point. Got a couple new ones that we're trying to actually not break, I guess would be the correct way to say it. We'll see. Doing so good so far. Actually, one of them just broke, I guess. We're dedicating it just for ceramics, and that it stopped working, I think. So I think either coil has gone bad or some relay, so yeah, revisit that. But I think it's a minor fix. How successful has the reboot been? I think hard to say. It's hard to say on YouTube. YouTube is hard. The main hope for it was to give it kind of a long-term growing goal so that it won't be so hit and miss as it is on YouTube. I think it's helped with that, but it's still kind of a game of competing. It's a high competition because you have a lot of different. There's a lot of content on YouTube, and you're kind of competing against all of it. So you have to have something that pops every single time. So sometimes we do content that is really interesting, really cool, but it might not have a good title, and then it falls flat. So it's a little bit of trying to figure out what people will click on, and also content that's fun to make that people want to see. So we're still kind of experimenting, figuring that out. I think the general reaction I got is that most people seem to like the reboot. If you don't, let us know. Want to hear everybody's opinion. We're also looking to do some videos outside of it, like we did the Corona hand sanitizer, and want to do projects, not limit ourselves too much, but also keep going with the reset and see how far we build ourselves up to. Kind of excited that one of the things I was rushing to complete this week before we went into quarantine was this really, really basic lathe, which I think is kind of a pretty advanced tool, but it was invented pretty early on, pretty shortly after the wheel. It's very, very rudimentary, but my trial, it seemed to work. So I'm kind of excited to have that tool because that opens up a lot. They want to see Daffyd. Daffyd is being shy. I will grab her. Hold on 1 second. Found her. She was hiding, probably because of all the blunders. So this is my only companion for the next 2 weeks as we enter into shelter in place. She's very good at social distancing. Alright. So any other questions? Let's see. Somebody asking what our next video will be. Let's see. It was a papyrus, which I teased at the beginning of the stream. We attempt to make papyrus again. I've done this before, less successful. Give it another shot. Tried using some different plants that are more locally available. And we also kind of are exploring in the video the concept of kind of sealing your documents with seals and how kind of... I can't think of the words. Basically, how the invention of writing allowed you to send confidential notes. So we explored a little bit with seals and with clay tablets. They actually put it in envelopes made out of clay, which I thought was interesting. So we made a few of those, a few papyrus scrolls, sealed them up, and we mailed them to myself to see how well a modern courier will handle an ancient technology like tablets and papyrus. Let's see. Getting fed questions. I don't know if somebody asked about a bicycle or if I'm supposed to talk about it, but it's one of our larger upcoming projects is hypothetical on exploring if it would be possible to build a bicycle in the Bronze Age, which I think will be an interesting challenge because theoretically it is possible, I think, at this point in my research. It's going to be a two-parter to break it up into easier goals. And the first one's going to be making the predecessor of the bicycle, which was called the Dandy Horse, which is basically a bike that has no pedal system. You just kind of walk it. And it's almost a scooter, basically. So we're going to try to do that, figure out making actual spoked wheels and getting it on a system where you can steer and everything, and see if you can do that in the Bronze Age. I think it's an interesting question because the bicycle and everything came up after, I think it was like the year of no summer, I think it was called. It's like some, one of them periods in the 1800s where there's a lot of, something caused a lot of horses to die. So the inventor of the Dandy Horse was curious of a replacement. So it's kind of the motivator to make it at that specific time in history. But if there had been a motivator earlier in history, we could have had bicycles way back then. Is at least the theory we're going to explore. We'll see how well it actually turns out. Let's see. A few comments of Bronze Age armor, which we're hoping to explore. We're going to start out making some copper bowls for a few upcoming videos, including popcorn. We're going to make a kettle. And that'll be kind of the same base concept, I believe, for making bronze armor of hammering it into shape. Let's see. Favorite fail moment? I don't know. I guess I gotta go with the cranberries when I fell into the bog. I know a lot of people enjoy that. I'd like to throw it in as many episodes as possible. It was funny even in the moment. It was our third take, reaching down to the bog, cranberries, and I just lost my footing and went head first into it, and it was like so perfectly, like such a huge fail, so perfectly done that I couldn't help like coming up after I realized I wasn't drowning and grab a hold of something. I came up laughing because I was like, I hope you got that. So that was definitely my favorite fail moment. Yeah. Let's see. Make a anvil for metalworking. We actually did that when we went down with Gregg. It was one of the things we cast was a decent sized bronze anvil that we'll be rolling out in some upcoming videos to help process some of our metal and be definitely useful for the armor and other copper working like that. Um, let's see. School degrees. I have a degree in motion graphics, visual effects and motion graphics, for a bachelor's. Yeah, it does come in use. That's what most of the animations in the videos I usually done myself, unless we've had interns help us with it. But yeah, a lot of the post work I do myself. Well, it's slowly handing it off more and more, but there's people. Yeah. What have I done with bees before? Wax or honey? That was the very first sandwich. I used honey and collected some for that, and then I've collected some from later on for beeswax, to then kind of have considered unlocking it so we can use more abundance. I definitely would like to do it. I'm curious like how you would do it historically for whatever era we're in. I think we have to be at least the age where they were domesticated. So building our own hive and trying to raise our own would definitely be possible. We just don't have the space. And unfortunately, that's the biggest holdback for a lot of our projects is just not having the space. We have a studio. 2 years ago, we got a studio space, which has been amazing, especially now when it's been taken away from me. And I have to go back to my apartment. I just cannot do much in just a small apartment. So it definitely opens the door, but getting just a large plot of land where we could do more agriculture, animal husbandry, and permanent structures is a long-term goal, but we'll see. All right. And Daffyd wants to send a message. What are you sending? What are you gonna send? Ooh. Oh, you want some beer? So Daffyd wrote M, a bunch of spaces, and N, K, L. So, anybody who speaks cat can translate for that. I'm sure it's a very important message. Alright. Favorite place we've traveled to? Mexico for this series was definitely really cool to explore that. I guess it was very different because of the language barrier. Other than that, we've traveled a fair amount of places within the U.S. Utah, when we took that trip out there, was really cool. Just because all the different mineral deposits we were able to collect and different scenery all around Utah. That was really cool. Being able to go to Cornwall this last year was interesting. Go to the tin mine. So I feel like you keep hearing about the Cornish miners. Like every mine we go to, it was dug by Cornish miners who left Cornwall. It was like seeing the genesis of a lot of mining around the world. What percentage alcohol is your beer? I don't know. I didn't measure it before. It seems probably a little bit on the low side. This stuff is definitely stronger than the natural stuff I brewed in the actual vessels. That stuff ended up pretty weak. This is definitely a bit stronger. I would maybe probably an average light beer, like 4.5 would be my guess. I did forget to take the measurement before, so I can't really test it now. Let's see. So we got making a horse chariot instead of bicycle. We are planning on making a chariot. We were hoping to make it sooner. We were pushing it back because after researching it, it would be a lot of work. So the bicycle, I think, ended up being a little bit easier because we don't have to worry about saddling and hooking it up to a horse. We are hoping to hopefully get to a actual chariot later on. That will definitely be a large project, though. Let's see. Do I stay in touch with Lewis? I assume it's Lewis Darnell. I haven't for a while. I feel a little bad because when I went to London, which was really cool, being able to actually meet him in person and chat, it was a really cool experience. But he planted the seed of doing the reset, of challenging me to make a steam engine, and then telling me how everything was connected, and then we filmed 5 other segments, but they're all stuff that's 1800s and later. He challenged me to make an X-ray machine, which is gonna be a little bit ways off, but surprisingly achievable thing once we get to it. So we have a lot of segments filmed with him that might not come out for a few years. But yeah, one thing we are hoping to get back to the camera project, which is his initial challenge to me was making the camera itself. So this is going to be another hypothetical one of exploring how to make film. Like, how early in history could you possibly do that with what technology? And we're aiming for about, I don't know, different historical things. I guess we're about to unlock distillation, which is going to be a huge catalyst for chemistry and allowing you to do a lot of things. And the evidence for that dates back to, I believe, around 3000 BCE in the Indus Valley. Just surprising. So that will allow us to start distilling different chemicals and producing everything we need to make actual silver nitrate film. We're working with David. He's the chemistry guy. He helped us with the rubber and tried to make the matches. We'll get him fix that soon. He's helping us with the upcoming video on numbers, which will be coming out pretty soon. We'll be making an abacus and inventing our own numbering system. That should be in a couple weeks. That's what the lathe is for, to try and make some wooden beads. Let's see. My favorite YouTuber? I have to admit, I don't end up watching a lot of YouTube too often. I usually will dabble on different people, especially people I've collaborated with. Check in on Cody's Lab once in a while, and King of Random. But nothing I really watch too religiously. Alright, let's check on the paper, see if it's dried enough. It's still pretty wet. I don't know if it'll be dry enough by the end of this live stream, so we might have to post a video on the community tab if you want to see how they turned out. And just looking at it right now, the paper one is kind of disintegrated, I think, because I rolled it out, and the cotton one looks promising, but it might be a little thick, but I think it'll work. Let's see. What tools will you make next? Let's see. The lathe one is the one I just built. I'm going to take a fair amount of fine tuning to actually get it down. What else? A saw is going to be a big one. We cast a large saw, and I just have to figure out how to carve the teeth into it. And that's going to help with milling wood, and will help a lot. Because getting square pieces of wood is such a pain with the tools we have right now. So I'm hoping we can set up something probably like a pit saw method. We have a pit and a saw. You can go on each side, and you just kind of work your way through and make some square logs. Yeah. Let's see. When are we casting iron? That is tentatively October, I think, is when we have planned to make it to the Iron Age. Still a few more advancements. We're coming up fairly quick. Probably end of May to glass. It's kind of my old nemesis that I finally mastered using modern technology. Now to revisit it using primitive technology to see how it was once done. And that one's going to be kind of a big precursor for iron, because that'll be around the time the bellows was invented, so we'll be able to use that. So that will be able to get a lot hotter. Yeah. Let's see. The current status of the written language. In the papyrus one, our Discord kind of evolved it a little bit to the first stage. I asked them to evolve it at different stages as we get to different writing technologies. So with this papyrus, it's a little bit more influenced by strokes and a little bit simplified. It's going to be kind of incremental changes as it develops. And then I put out a whole list of like what the major steps might be. Can't think of them at the top of my head, but eventually we get to the printing press, which was actually one of the videos we filmed the Fluid Star now. That was gonna be ways off. Would we do a collab with the Modern Rogue? Yeah, it has crossed my mind. I haven't come up with a good suggestion for them. I think they're Austin based, and we were just in Austin, so we're thinking about trying to reach out to them, but we just kind of crunched for time and didn't really have a good plan for when we were there for what we wanted to do. Any future collaborations? Nothing firm. I think there's some talk of doing something with I like to make stuff with him. I'm not sure what happened with that plan. I've been in talks with doing something with Nile Red. Nothing concrete yet. Yeah, nothing set yet. So asking about a fun quarantine activity idea. Our next video after Papyrus is going to be shaving a haircut. So we got some Bronze Age scissors that I cast and this Bronze Age razor, and I'm going to kind of face a challenge a lot of people are going to be facing when they are locked up, the quarantine of having to cut your own hair because you can't go to your barber or anything. So we're going to try and do an episode about that, try and explore Bronze Age tools to give yourself some makeover with a new haircut. So yeah, I'm trying to grow it out right now as much as I can over the next couple of weeks and then cut it off and probably make myself look horrible. But the good news is I don't have to go out in public for a while at least. Let's see. Next food we are making from scratch. Let's see. I have a few different ones. We're kind of touching on like some of the origins of foods. They were first invented, kind of. So we have like noodles. There's like I think it's Mediterranean dish. It's considered possibly the origin of lasagna. It was around that pretty soon up. And I also wanted to do kind of theoretical ones, like the pizza, which wasn't invented until much later. But like, if Romans had the idea of trying to make pizza, how would it taste? Like, they wouldn't have things like tomatoes, so they'd have some other form of sauce. So we're going to do kind of a hypothetical, what it might taste like back then, what ingredients they had available in the area, what were other foods that were common. There's a fish sauce was pretty common then, something about that for the sauce. Kind of do that. And I also want to do one in Mesoamerica, where they would have had tomatoes. They wouldn't have had cheese, though. They wouldn't have wheat, but they'd have corn. So kind of exploring hypothetical food items as well. Let's see. We can start possibly wrapping this up. Let's take a look at the paper. I don't think they're going to be dried, so I think I'll do a post on them later. Move the beer out of the way. Alright, so you can kind of see them here. End result's still pretty wet, so I think they need to dry probably overnight. I would say cotton's pretty thick, but definitely most likely to work. I think this plant fiber will actually turn out pretty good if it dries alright. The recycled paper is very questionable, mostly because it got spread out when I rolled it out. But in an emergency, I think it'll work. Yeah, it looks like this is going to take a while to dry, so I think I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll do a post on the community tab to update everybody on how that was. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Kind of just want to do something a little bit different, because we're into the quarantine now. Do something a little bit more engaging and social, give everybody at least some semblance of social interaction, but we all have to physically distance ourselves. I don't like doing things live is difficult with this because a lot of times they don't work the first time, as you can tell. Mixed results here, but hopefully this will give you at least some activities to consider doing. If you do it, you don't want to use materials that you're going to cook with, your blender, if you use it for food and such. Don't use that. Otherwise, it can be a fun activity, and if you're in an emergency for wrapping for toilet paper, it's an option. Yeah, hope everybody enjoyed this. I think I'm going to wrap it up.